G'day guys and welcome back to your English Aussie. Today we have the buy, sell, hold for all the best defenders, midfielders and forwards for Game Week 23. We've also included a goalkeeper section for you guys that you've been requesting recently and we will get to that throughout this video. First we're going to kick off with the best defenders to buy for Game Week 23 and going forwards. I will be doing the tactical and statistical analysis piece after the Chelsea game this week and that video will come out later this game week. And finally, I just want to thank you guys. We have recently reached 1,000 subscribers on the channel. We've been growing super fast over the last few months. And I want to thank you guys for all your support. If you are watching and haven't subscribed yet, please click that subscribe button, like the video, and help get this channel out to more people if you enjoy this content. Thanks very much for all of you guys, and let's get straight into it. First up on my tier 1 buy list is Trent Alexander-Arnold. For the very first time this season, Trent is my #1 buy, and that is because of Liverpool's nice fixture against Ipswich in 23, followed by their double game week in 24. If the question that you're asking is Trent value for money? My answer does still remain as no. I do not think Trent Alexander-Arnold is good value for money at all this season. He has been playing that more restricted role under Arne Slot. He hasn't been getting into those forward positions as much. The times he has managed to get his assist are when Liverpool are coming from behind or trying to win the game, which haven't been that frequent so far this season. However, I do believe he is the best attacking option from that Liverpool defenders, despite not being quite the value for money, given that he's 7.2 million, he still is the best option out of that Liverpool defence, especially for that short period where you want to attack the highest potential ceiling over that double game week and short period where Liverpool have good fixtures. If you can't afford the funds into Trent Alexander-Arnold, Konate is a nice cheap price option for Liverpool at 5.1 million and another route into their defence. Next up on the list is Anthony Robinson of Fulham, and that rounds out my tier 1 buys. I think Anthony Robinson is the defender with the best attacking upside. At the moment, he has got the most assists for any defender in the Premier League with 9 assists so far this season, and does play in some incredibly attacking positions for Fulham, often taking up almost a left wing role when Fulham sort of switch up to almost a 3-4-3 at times in their various structures that they've been playing recently under Marco Silva. Robinson's been fantastic, really getting into some fantastic positions for Fulham and linking up really well with Iwobi down that left-hand side. For me, he's well worth the 5.1 million, definitely over Castagna, who often can tuck into a more central defensive role at times. Despite Fulham's fixtures not being fantastic over the next few weeks, I think clean sheets have been notoriously difficult to predict this year, and that's why I'd like to target defenders that have the biggest upside for attacking returns as my main defenders over the upcoming period. Tier 2 category, we do have Milenkovic, Aina, Nico Williams. These are the Nottingham Forest defenders. Milenkovic at 4.8 million does have that sort of physical imposing presence and does have attacking potential for corners and set pieces. Aina at 5.3 million is a little bit more expensive and does provide that sort of assist potential at the fullback role. And then finally, Nico Williams, who has been starting the last 5-6 games for Nottingham Forest, is at 4.4 million and could be a really nice cut price route into that Nottingham Forest side. Despite the fixtures again for Nottingham Forest not being fantastic at the moment for the next 6 or so game weeks, they do start to pick up in Game Week 29. And Game Week 29 is a really important fixture given chip strategy at the moment to make sure that you have defenders or playing players with a nice fixture given the potential for blank game weeks in 29. Forest obviously are probably the one team at the moment in the Premier League who have been able to keep quite frequent clean sheets. They do have a really solid back four, very well coached under Nuno, and that's why these three guys make it into the top of my tier 2 buy category. Next up on the tier 2 list is Gabriel of Arsenal. Arsenal historically have been a good defence, however at the moment just haven't found that calmness and composure at the back to be able to be keeping clean sheets. They do actually have some reasonably nice fixtures over the next 5 games: Wolves, Man City, Leicester, West Ham and Nottingham Forest, followed by Man United in 28. However, they don't have a fantastic fixture in 29 when they do take on Chelsea, assuming they don't make it past Newcastle in the EFL Cup, and they won't be blanking in 29. Those are actually my only tier 2 buy options, and the reason for that, and we will get back to the sells, but the reason for that is I have included a lot of people in the HODL/hold category, and that is because I am forward planning for game week 29 if, and this is an if, and I would start to look into this post game week 24, post the double game week for Liverpool, post that EFL Cup semi-final second leg. If Liverpool do manage to overcome the 1-0 deficit to Spurs and Newcastle get through against Arsenal, both Liverpool and Newcastle will blank, along with Crystal Palace and Aston Villa. That means that you will need to think about potentially some of these Newcastle, Palace, Liverpool assets and whether you still want them in your team. Therefore, for me, Lewis Hall is not a buy at the moment. He is a hold if you have him in your team. I do think he has very good attacking potential, some okay fixtures, in fantastic form for Newcastle, who did have a slip up against Bournemouth this week. However, I think Lewis Hall provides great value being on set pieces and corners for Newcastle, and I would definitely hold him until we get closer to that game week 29 blank game week. Next up on the list is Jurrien Timber for Arsenal. Similarly to Gabriel, I'd say that Arsenal defence has been struggling a little bit lately. I think if you do have him, there's no point in transferring him out. Their fixtures are relatively good over the next 5 game weeks, and then perhaps you could look to move him on after that. Munoz, again, similarly reason to Hall. If Crystal Palace do blank in that 29, he is a hold for me, but I wouldn't look to buy him in right now, given that is just going to be another transfer that you're going to have to make down the line. I do think after game week 24, rolling transfers is going to be super important, and you should look to roll as many as possible to prepare yourself to hopefully getting through game week 29 without using a chip and being able to use that free hit in perhaps the bigger blank in game week 34. In the sell category, Pedro Porres, Lewis and Guardiola. Man City have reached the end of their good fixture run. Their defence still looks as shaky as ever, despite the 6-0 win over Ipswich, who often struggle to create offensive threat. I don't like Man City's odds of keeping clean sheets against their next 4 or 5 opponents: Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool, Tottenham, which probably could be the worst 5 you want to line up for. Guardiola hasn't been getting into those attacking positions, given that Kyle Walker's no longer playing at right back. That means that if Rico Lewis is at right back, he inverts into the defensive midfield role and Guardiola slots into the back 3. Or if Mateus Nunes is there, he will push forward or invert, and again Guardiola will come back into that back 3. Without Kyle Walker, he's unable to push forward into that left wing role and isn't getting into the nice attacking positions that he has done previously. Lewis, for me, similarly, defensive midfield, City not creating enough chances. And I don't think we do need to comment too much on the Spurs defence and Pedro Porro. That money can be much better spent elsewhere with some of these other nice defenders. Moving on into the midfield. We just have Kirkes and Huijsen for Bournemouth on that list as well. Again, I think Bournemouth have obviously been doing really well, but their fixtures perhaps over the next 4 weeks still remain okay, and then longer term are sort of a bit up and down. I would say if you do have some of these players, I would hold them for the time being. Again, they don't have a fantastic fixture in 29 with Brentford. So it's not somebody that I would be looking to bring into my team at the moment. But if you do have a Kirkes or a Huijsen for Bournemouth, I would hang on to them at the moment. Moving on to the midfielders, and the first 2 in the tier 1 category I think need no introduction: Mohamed Salah and Cole Palmer. We will not talk further about them. If you do not have Mo Salah, he is an absolute necessity for game week 24, double game week. He will be most people's captains, if not triple captains. Cole Palmer continues to impress and has been scoring in weeks gone by, and he is fantastic value at 11.4 million. Into the tier 2 buys, and first up on the list is Brian and Bumo. Brentford have a really nice fixture run coming up for attacking fixtures. Crystal Palace, Tottenham, West Ham, Leicester, Everton, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, leading through to 29. And Bumo obviously won't be blanking and is somebody that I would look to bring in or to hold if you have him already. Statistically, he's not up there, but he is on pens. Has been in great form for Brentford, who do score a lot of goals. So I think he's a fantastic option. Next up on this list is Bruno Fernandes of United. I think United have some really nice fixtures coming up. Fulham, Crystal Palace, Tottenham, Everton, Ipswich in their next 5. And they do have Leicester in game week 29. So he could be somebody nice that you have in the midfield playing for you in that blank game week. He is somebody I definitely look at bringing in. Alongside Bruno, we do have Anthony Gordon. Newcastle have been in great form over the last few game weeks. Anthony Gordon's been in fantastic form. They come up against Southampton next, and I would look to continue on backing the Newcastle team. Obviously, they are likely to blank in game week 29, and you will need to consider, if you do already own Anthony Gordon, whether he's someone that you want to transfer out of your team or perhaps hold as one of those 3 bench players that are likely to be Salah, Isak +1, and then sort of move your other 11 players to playing players for that game week. Next up on the list is Morgan Rogers. Aston Villa have a fantastic fixture run over the next 6. West Ham, Wolves, Ipswich, Chelsea, Crystal Palace and Brentford. Obviously potentially made blank in 29, and that is why you should be rolling some transfers after 24 and looking to potentially move Rogers out around the 29 mark if they are blanking against if Aston Villa are blanking. Looking in fantastic form at the moment, a pivotal part of that Aston Villa team, fantastic in transition, and a really nice cheap cut price option at 5.5 million. Finally on the list, Ahmad. Similarly to Bruno Fernandes, I think United have some good fixtures. That one for me is whether he does play in that right wing back role when Delo either is not available, getting a rest, and whether he's always in that sort of front 3 for Manchester United. Otherwise, I think Ahmad is a fantastic cut price option if you are looking for someone that is playing in that game week 29. I think he's a really nice option at 5.6 million. In the tier 3 buys, we've got Phil Foden. Now, Phil Foden was very close to being a tier 2 buy. He's obviously been in superb form for Man City. I've spoken about tactically the change up for Man City, switching Savio out to that left wing, allowing him to run at defenders out wide, not cramping up the half spaces where Phil Foden occupies in the 10 role. And Foden and De Bruyne interchanging on that right-hand side for City, allowing De Bruyne to whip balls into the box and also Foden to pick up spaces in the pocket and on that sort of 18-yard box a la Mahrez days for Manchester City. He's been a little bit lucky with some of his goals so far in the last few game weeks. However, he has been getting into some much better positions, so could be a really nice differential to continue with going forwards. The only downside of that is the Man City fixtures obviously take a bad swing now with Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool in the next 4. Next up on the list is Cliver of Bournemouth. A little bit of a knee-jerk reaction to his goals again this game week. I do think Bournemouth do have some fantastic fixtures from 25. And he's not somebody that I'd look at until then. That's why he's sitting in the tier 3 section. Tactically really nice, playing in that 10 role with Evan Nilsson out at the moment. Statistics are not quite up there, but he is on penalties. Form obviously actually is very good, coming off the back of 3 goals and an assist last week. And the fixture's not quite there yet, but in 25, Bournemouth go on a fantastic run all the way to 33. He's obviously playing in that game week 29 against Brentford, which is a nice fixture for an attacking player as well. Next up on the list is Ismail Assar. Nice option for Crystal Palace. They do have some nice fixtures coming up over the next 6. Tactically, he is in that 10 role for Palace, running on past Mateta, and is probably the bigger goal threat of the two, of him and Eze, whereas Eze is a little bit deeper, more of a creative, hitting those balls through to Mateta and to Sarr. So I do prefer Sarr, since the goal for the midfielder is 5 points versus the 3. Jacob Murphy for Newcastle, similar to Anthony Gordon, Newcastle being in 5 form. Murphy provides just a more of a cut price option into that Newcastle team. He will also most likely play lesser minutes than Gordon, likely coming off around 60-70 minutes each game for a Harvey Barnes. Next is Kulusevski of Spurs. Spurs actually have a quite nice fixture run over the next 4. They have Leicester, Brentford, Man United and Ipswich. We will see whether they do blank in 29 or not. So for the time being, I wouldn't be bringing Kulusevski into the team. I would wait till after the EFL Cup semi-final in 24, which will then leave Spurs with maybe 2 or 3 good game weeks. So perhaps, on reflection, Kulusevski is probably a little bit lower down this tier 3 buy section for me. Anthony Elanga next up on the list for Nottingham Forest, obviously in fantastic form. Elanga is a key part of Nottingham Forest's progressive attacks, progressive passes, progressive carries and fast counter-attacks up the field. He is an absolute speed merchant and has been essential in Nottingham Forest being able to play on the counter the way they do and cause teams problems. He's been in really nice form of late. However, Forest don't have the most fantastic fixtures going forward. He is a nice differential option at 5.3 million. Moving on to the forwards, and the tier 1 buys is the one, the only, Alexander Isak, in incredible form for Newcastle. Unfortunately ended his run of, I think it was 8 consecutive games, having scored a goal in, maybe 9, last week for Newcastle. But continues to be a fabulous option and the number 1 forward option for me, and the only one that makes it into my tier 1 buy category. Into tier 2 buy, we do have Yohan Wissa. I think he becomes even more of an option if you do not have Brian and Mbeumo. Brentford have fantastic fixtures, and I don't begrudge anyone a double up on them. When Brentford score, you often think it's either going to be Mbeumo or Wissa involved. Wissa has one of the best footballing IQs in the league. I've spoken about this at length in a lot of my tactical analysis videos. He just gets into such fantastic positions and has been doing so even since back when Ivan Toney was playing and he was playing in midfield and popping up with last-minute goals. He just has a nose for the place to be, and that is fantastic to have in a forward, and he's looked brilliant for Brentford so far this season. Next up on the list is Chris Wood. Obviously, the Nottingham Forest fixtures are actually probably more of a warning than a green tick here. Probably need to update on that. But Chris Wood's just been in such fantastic form and is the focal point of all Nottingham Forest attacks end with Wood. Whether he's trailing the play on a counter-attack or they're putting balls into the box for him to attack. He is such a crucial part of that Forest team, and his finishing has been absolutely sensational this season. At 7.1 million though, he is increasing in price at a dramatic rate, and will look to continue that good run of form over the next few games. Finally on the list, and he remains a buy for me, is Nicholas Jackson. If you don't have the price to quite get to him, I do prefer a Wissa and a Wood. But otherwise, I think Chelsea's fixtures are great. I think tactically he's playing in a great role. He's got a wonderful link up with Palmer. He's able to drop in, pick up the ball, play passes on. He's also able to run in behind with his pace. He has all the attributes required of a striker, other than the finishing, which is maybe the crucial aspect. Earlier in the season, he was finishing fantastically well and really had looked like he'd improved that. And he has had a little bit of a barren spell and a tough time in front of goal recently. His confidence might be a little low, but all it takes is one goal for these strikers to hit firing form again. And with Chelsea's good fixture run at the moment, I think he's still a buy for me, but would be my 4th choice striker. In the sell section, we finally do have Erling Haaland. Man City's nice fixture run that you would look to target Haaland has ended. His price is just too much to be going for at the moment, and I would look to sell him immediately for one of these other options. Evan Nilsson, obviously injured at Bournemouth at the moment. Not somebody I'd be looking to get in. If you do have him, he is a sell for me. You've got some other nice forward options that you can go for. And Cunha, with Wolves' fixtures taking the swing now. They've got Arsenal, Villa, Liverpool, Bournemouth in their next 4 games. Wolves' fixtures actually turn nice again from game week 29, and that could be another swing where you could perhaps look to bring Cunha back in for that blank game week for potentially someone that you have for one of those teams. Excuse me. Next up in the hold section is Cody Gakpo. I think if you do have him, he's definitely somebody that I would hold for Liverpool. I think the X's and ticks are a little bit off here. I would say tactics-wise, he is a warning for me. I'll go on to that. Statistically, he's been doing well recently over the last 5-6 games. Form-wise, obviously in fantastic form for Liverpool. Scored a lot of goals, would be a green tick. And fixtures-wise would probably also be a green tick for me for Liverpool moving into that double game week. The reason I have him as a warning for tactically is obviously with the rotation Liverpool have up front, it is difficult to predict who will be starting in that front lineup. With PSV Eindhoven leading in is the 8th fixture for Liverpool in the Champions League, was Gakpo's old club, and that is followed immediately by Bournemouth on the weekend at the beginning of game week 24, and then followed by a Tuesday EFL semi-final of the Cup against Tottenham where they're 1 down. I think it's likely that he plays PSV against his old club, is rested for Bournemouth, and then is brought back for the EFL Cup semi-final before being rested for Plymouth in the next midweek, and then played against Everton in the second of the 2 in the double game week. That's why for me he's not somebody that's a buy. I think he's not going to play both weeks in the double game week. He might come on off the bench in that first week against Bournemouth, but I expect him to play 1 out of 2 of those weeks for Liverpool. So for me, he's a hold. If you've already got him, it's not worth making all those transfers to switch to another Liverpool player, but he's not a buy for me based off those reasons. João Pedro, also a hold. I think really nice price point at 5.6 million. Brighton obviously got Danny Welbeck back now, and João Pedro looks a lot better in that 9 role behind Welbeck against Man United in their 3-1 win. Brighton's attacking pattern started to look a lot nicer. They were able to interlink the Mitoma, Welbeck, João Pedro trio working really well together with Yakuba Minte on the right. I thought he is a nice hold going forwards. Raul Jimenez, also a hold for me. I think Fulham's fixtures are nice over the next 6-7 weeks. And Raul Jimenez obviously being on penalties for them, again, a nice price point. Finally, Ollie Watkins, Aston Villa, really nice fixtures over the next 6. West Ham, Wolves, Ipswich, Chelsea, Crystal Palace, Brentford. The only thing for me is leading up towards game week 29, he may be potentially blanking. And towards there, he would be somebody that I look to get out for game week 29. If you do have him, I would hold him, but not somebody that I would be buying in given that potential blank in 29. Finally, and what you guys all requested for, is a goalkeeper section. I've just done the buy sections for goalkeepers and who I think are the best options, given that there's not going to be a lot of goalkeeper transfers being made, unless perhaps you're on a wild card or looking to bring someone in for the double game week. First up, I've got Alisson, and that is purely because I think he is a great option for the Liverpool double game week, and as someone as potentially just a long-term hold for Liverpool. They've been a great defensive unit this season and potentially can continue to pick up some clean sheets in the second half of the season. So Alisson for me ticks all the boxes. Next up is Raya of Arsenal. Obviously, historically, thinking about Arsenal being a good defence. They do have a nice run of fixtures over the next 5-6 games with Wolves, City, Leicester, West Ham, Nottingham Forest and Man United. And Raya could be somebody that you look to go into as a set and forget keeper, where you don't have to worry about rotation each game week. Then you've got Sells of Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest obviously have been a team who have just shown that they have been able to keep clean sheets against all sorts of opposition and have been defensively super solid. Sells has been fantastic in making great saves for them, and he's definitely somebody that I would also consider if you think Nottingham Forest can keep this up for the length of the season. Can be another one along with Alisson and Raya that's just a set and forget, and you don't have to worry too much about rotating the keepers. Finally in this section is Jordan Pickford. That is because of the Everton double game week and the fact that he does seem to just always manage to make a ton of saves, often frequently save penalties during the season, and just seems to find multiple routes to points. I think he is the top scoring goalkeeper so far this season in FPL, if I'm not mistaken. I am mistaken, am I? Sorry. I think he is the top second after Sells this season, and he does just find a way to points very frequently. So he sneaks his way in there. Everton fixtures are not horrendous. However, I do think that potentially under David Moyes, they might not be as defensively solid as they were under Sean Dyche, as he looks to try to score some more goals. In the Tier 2 section, I've got Kepa Arrizabalaga, another name that is incredibly difficult. For me, I think Bournemouth have been really nice as a defensive unit this season. I think 5th best for goals conceded so far this season. From game week 25, they do have a really nice long fixture run all the way through to 33, which is around the time where I think you'll be considering playing your second wildcard if you follow the optimal chip strategy that I set out and talked about in my deadline stream this week. If you haven't seen that, I'll put a link to it up above. Check that out. Probably later on in the deadline stream we talked through sort of chip strategy and talked why what weeks were for all of the chips were the best weeks to use them. So yeah, I think for me, Kepa's a really nice option if you want to just target a good fixture run all the way through to 33. That could be nice for Bournemouth. You might have to just get through the next the game week 24 against Liverpool. And Fabianski rounds out my goalkeepers. The reason he's in here is if you are going for potentially an Alisson or a Pickford, potentially an Alisson or even you have a Dubravka or a Raya and Arsenal make it through the EFL Cup final, or even a Martinez. Fabianski does have a really nice fixture in game week 29 and could easily be brought in as a backup goalkeeper transfer just to be able to play in that game week 29. This is something I am planning to do. I do plan to bring in Fabianski for my 3.9 million goalkeeper fodder. I'm going to try and bring him in closer to the game week 29 deadline once we know the results of the EFL Cup semi-final. That rounds out my goalkeepers, and I just want to say, guys, before I conclude, if you have been enjoying this content, please subscribe to the channel. Please like this video. We've just recently hit 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much to all of you guys that have already subscribed. For those of you watching the videos that haven't, please click the button, help this channel to grow. I will be bringing out the tactics and stats video later this week after the Chelsea game, which I know everyone values quite a lot on this channel. And I will, of course, be doing a live stream this weekend where I will be including team reviews for you guys and talk through any transfer plans and replying to all your comments. Thanks very much for everybody that watches the videos. Keep trying to watch through all the way to the end. That really does help the YouTube algorithm, even if you leave it running. Just kidding. Thank you guys. Appreciate you all. Have a great week. Good luck this game week.